we need to set up a few things. And one thing I did already, I think this is as basic as it's no need to do it within this tutorial, but I created the content already. So we have our clients teaser, we have features teaser, we have the skills teaser, the what it's called testimonial and the teams teaser. And along with creating the components, we created already the templates for it. So you can see I created already some clients and added also some logos and some data for it. And our clients teaser, just to remember, has a title, and then it references our clients so that we can decide which clients should be shown in that particular teaser. So that's the data source here. And if we take a look at the features, it's more or less the same structure. So we have created already some features with some dummy names. There's no icon yet. And then we have the features teaser, which is already containing, again, some dummy data, but referencing then our features. Scrolling down to the skills folder, you can imagine what this is about. So we have some skills here, CSS skills, HTML skills with a certain value that we are going to show in some kind of bar. And then the skills overview component folder contains a skills overview item or data source, referencing again our skills and having some dummy data on top of it. Same for team members and teams teaser. So here are team members with an image and a name and their role, and then referencing those from the team teaser data source, again with some dummy data on top of it. And last but not least, testimonial. So here we have our testimonial teaser, and we're referencing again testimonial items, which are maintained here again with image, their quote and their name and their role within the company. So that's the data source structure. I think no need to create that within the tutorial, but only that you know that we have created that upfront. So now it's it's up to the components, and if we could drag and drop the components already to the screen, but they would not look as they should look. So let's go to our theme. Let's collapse here a bit. So first thing, of course, we need to start synchronizing with the with Sitecore. So we will start the SXA watch command, and let me just check one thing. Yes, so we need to go to the right path. CD media themes, SXA tutorial. Here we are, and start the SXA watch command. And we want to watch all folders, and we want to have a bit of a debug output. So that's why we add the parameter D. Let's see, is this going to work? Yes, no. I'm in the... Okay, I'm in the wrong folder, so let me go further. That would be then company dev. And then again, SXA tutorial. Okay, that's a long folder path. Let's try again. SXA watch all. So the error message was stating that there was no packages in that folder that I just mentioned, which makes sense because I never ran the npm install command on that folder that is in a higher hierarchy. So in our actual theme folder, it was a bit misleading for myself because I also created a base themes folder here. In our actual themes folder, of course, we have all the npm packages, and that's why also now our command works. So let's log in, of course, with that secret password. And here we are. So everything is synced. And let's just start maintaining something. So the first thing we want to do is our design actually has a full width design. So you see a gray backgrounds or white backgrounds per component from one end to the other. So from full left to full right on the screen. And therefore we need to adjust a little bit the styling of our overall appearance of the website. So if we take a look into the SaaS folder, we have created already the common CSS and or SCSS file. And in this one, we need to add something to make our main container go full width, so that we can actually work with this background. And also we add already a body color, which is some dark gray, and then the component itself will have its own colors. So yeah, it has been uploaded. So one more change that we have to do for our components as such to appear a bit more in a more beautiful way. So let's go to the common component SCSS file. And what we're going to do is, as we have added now the main container being full width of the screen, we need to say that the structure of the component itself has basically two divs, if you remember. So in our standard view file that SXA is using, we always have an outer div with a class component, and then we have an inner div with a class component content. So this is exactly what we're going to use. So the outer div component will have a width of 100%, which allows us to give a full width background to the component, and the inner div will now be centered. So having the margin auto, having some padding, but taking over the max width of 1147 pixels, which was there before for the whole main container. So just to have all the components displayed in block whenever we need that. But if you remember the design, the carousel, for example, was full width. So also this is now doable within the main section of our content. So just adding this one as well. To have our general appearance set. Now let's take an eye on the first component, the client's teaser. So each component will consist of a Scriban file, of course, and then also some styles. So let's start with the Scriban file. So I have created again some folders here. So this is just manually created. Under my Scriban folder, I have then always a folder with the name of the component, which is representing basically the name that you find under rendering variants. And then inside I have a folder for the variant definition item, which in my case, as I foresee just one, I just called it default for the moment. Makes sense to have more speaking names if you go with multiple rendering variants. So in there, I will create now a new file, which I call client's teaser.scriban. So the Scriban extension of the file name is important because this way our SXA watcher will take this as a Scriban file, and in case this item is not existent in Sitecore, it will create also the item. So now inside I need to place some markup, and this is I have a little cheat sheet here. So let's just copy it in and see how this worked. So in our original tutorial with where we explained about Scriban, we told you about all the, for example, about the Scriban extension that we use here in Visual Studio Code, so that you have some IntelliSense, and yeah, that makes it much easier to write the Scriban code. Now, what do we see here? So most of our components that we're building right now start with some kind of section title, and this section title is basically above, like as you can see, an H2 title. There could be also some description underneath. In this case, it's not. And now we are referencing from our data template using the I item, and we are referencing the field called title. Furthermore, if you remember, we have some referenced items. So we're talking here about the client's teaser. So we referenced certain client items, and in rendering variants, if you use the items, you could use the reference renderer for that. However, this is also, of course, possible with Scriban. So to rebuild some kind of what the reference renderer does is we're just making use of a for loop, and we are looping through the item or the client's field from our item, so from our template that we're currently using. And in here, we use the targets extension. So this way we get each single item and we can write this into iClient while looping through it. And then, as you can see here, we can use the iClient as our current context item, basically. So as the client itself, the client item, and then reference the fields, or even further use further extensions like the target media URL just to get the URL of our image in this case. Now, one thing is important. So if we usually reference an image field, we would just go for iClient and then client logo, as this is an image field. But in our case, we just want to write the source URL in here. So that's why we use the additional extension. And this has for now one downside that we need to solve later on. We do not have this image now maintainable in the Experience Editor. So we need to add an edit frame button later on so that we make this image maintainable. So
and the same goes for the client field, right? Because that's a multi-list field, so there's no editing option on the in the page editor. So we need to add that edit frame even for that. So
yes, that also definitely makes sense. So just saved and synchronized. And let's also take a look at the styling that we need to add. So again, adding a new file. Oh, I should have copied the name before. So let's do that again. New file. Here goes the name. This is our client's teaser. And luckily, we got this from our front-end department. So we just hope that it works properly. So now let's test our new component. As it seems, everything was synchronized successfully. And let's go to the content editor and add a new page. So we have here a test page, and I'm going to add a new page underneath, test components. And we open this in Experience Editor. And then we will drag and drop the new component, the client's teaser, to see how it actually looks. So first thing that you can see is that our main placeholder is now full width, but of course we don't want to want our authors to handle some stylings and checkboxes in the presentation details to make this component centralized. So that's why everything should be styled now the way that they just drag and drop it and it's appearing as it should. So let's keep fingers crossed and drag and drop the client's teaser. It's probably asking us for a data source. So client teaser, okay. And here we go. Looking pretty good, I would say.
Definitely.
Yeah. Maybe let's cut it here for a moment.
Yeah.
And so I would say, let's go through the others in bulk.
Mm-hmm.
So I will always do Scriban, SCSS, Scriban, SCSS, and so on. And then we drag and drop the components on the same page and just see if they look correctly. And we can also have a look on the rendering variants that they are added automatically, right?
So first do everything in Visual Studio.
Yeah.
And then go back to the comment there, just so that, well, we could do it for just one or two components or whatsoever, just to show that the variant is there. They'll believe that the rest of them is there as well, and then add them to the page in the Experience Editor.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Okay, then is it fine so far?
Yeah, I just wasn't really sure where to add stuff, to be honest.
What do you mean?
Well, in the sense that you were just, following the script, and I couldn't really find like a point where I could add anything like a comment or whatsoever, which is fine for me, but it was just, I was like, is there anything I should be able to add, or not sure?
Shall I send you the script?
No, I think it's quite clear for now. We'll see how it goes. I'll improvise.
Okay.
We can do that.
Okay, let's start again.
Yeah, go.
So, okay, so as our first component looks quite good, so let's do the others as well, and we will do now everything here in Visual Studio Code, sync it, and then drag and drop the components just to see if they're working as they should. So usually, of course, building the markup and building the CSS takes some time. So we have pre-created that already, just not to have the hassle with moving pixels left and right and adjusting minor things. But I think that should be clear. So the next component is our features teaser, basically going the same path. So we have a Scriban file that we need to create. So we add a new file, call this again with the Scriban extension, and then, yes, we have pre-created something here. But as you can see, it's exactly the same structure. So we have our section title in this case, containing the title and an additional description on top, but also then looping through the referenced items and displaying them in a certain way by referencing basically. Well, the iClient doesn't make sense naming wise. It was just copy and pasted from the initial component, but just exchanging the field names, obviously, because we have different templates. So that's this one, and let's add also some styling to it. So creating the SAS file for it. There we go. This is our feature teaser. Let's copy what we got. Let's do the same with the next component, which is the skills overview. So we will create it underneath here. Skills overview, yes.
And as you can see, that Sebastian is now adding all of the Scriban files, all of the variants and all of the styling itself without even touching Sitecore, so it's just automatically being synchronized with Sitecore itself. So in that sense, you could also think of scenarios where this would be done by your front-end developers or any other developers who are perhaps less experienced within Sitecore or don't really know their way around, or you want to restrict them for that matter. This is quite a safe way for them to add all of those variants, all of the styling. If your Sitecore developer just adds the component to the pages, could be blank as well. So just using the default variant and just add those components to the page, add a data source, and your developers, your front-end developers, could reload that page and actually see their changes being applied immediately.
Yes. So, I mean, what I'm doing here, let's say more or less a bit faster by just copy pasting. This would be actually the workflow for the foreseen workflow for the front-end developers. Yeah. And the last component is our testimonial. So let's also add a Scriban file, and let's add markup as well as the styles. So all the components created from a visual perspective. Let's see if they look actually good or not. So going back to Experience Editor, well, then basically let's go back one more time to Content Editor, just to see that also the rendering variants or the variant definition have been synced. So there was no item before, and now there should be. So let's just have a quick look on this one under presentation and rendering variants. So client teaser we've worked with already. So there is obviously something, and you see the markup that we've created here in that template field. Now, same for feature. So there's something also synchronized, and I think the others are the same. So here's this guy, Teams teaser, testimonial. So all that has been created by the SXA CLI, synchronizing our Scriban files into Sitecore as items.
And just to be clear, right now you see the template there, you see all the HTML, but if you use this workflow, we would definitely recommend that you keep the files on your disk to be the single source of truth. And therefore, if you need to make changes to those templates, make them on those files. Use the CLI to sync your changes to Sitecore instead of doing it within the template here, because there's no check if there are any differences between your files on disk and the template stored within Sitecore. So any changes that you would make later on on disk would automatically be synced regardless if there have been happening any changes there.
Yes, right. It's a one-way synchronization process. So if you decide to use the SXA, which I definitely recommend, do not change anything in the template field. So going back to our page, yeah, let's try out the other components. So we have a features teaser. Let's drag and drop that underneath. We have a prepared data source. Let's use this one. And as you can see, the icons are missing. So this is something we need to work on later on. Then we have a Teams teaser. Let's drag and drop this one. There is a prepared data source. And you can see there is our team. And then we have the skills overview. Drag and drop that underneath. Skills overview. Okay, here we go. Actually, why this progress is not shown in a right way, either I need to save or go into preview. So this is not working correctly here, but just also one fact. So the skill value can be maintained here. So it's still editable from here, and it's shown in the bar later on as some kind of, yeah, as this kind of percentage. And then let's drag and drop the testimonial with a pre-created thing, and let's save and preview. So most of them have white background, actually all of them. Well, and there seems to be a front-end issue.
Well, we might need to publish our theme because the preview, I think, works in the understanding that it's all live, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, yeah, that could be. Okay. But actually it should look like that, but it looked different in the preview. Yeah, so that's basically it.
Cool.
Yeah, so a very quick way in creating new components. Of course, cheated a bit in time by preparing the markup and the styles. Sorry for that, but that keeps this tutorial a bit more crisp. And yeah, see you next time.
Thanks.